we tackled the question about annotations. So what we, in the beginning we had this library presentation of a library, and then we started with this photo of the library, and a lot of people sitting there, and they're actually working in a library, and as far as I have seen, there was even some paper on the table, and like in books. So we saw that annotations, as they are done nowadays, they are kind of siloed. If people do annotations, they are siloed into a sketchbook or into the book where you write it into, hopefully not a library book, or they are siloed into an app, so they're stuck in this app. But normally if you work with books, then you don't use only this one device or only this one book. How to combine this, especially if you work with several people. So what we try to tackle on is how to do annotations no matter what medium or device. And what we came up with is first of all a general idea about kind of a mental model of that, which is there is something like the source that I work with, which in our case is books. And the book can be a paper book, the book can be a digital book on some device, and then there is a space for annotations, and we decided that this space for annotations should not be inside the book, like not on the, for instance, on the text, but should be instead at the edges of it. And we are going to present to you 4 scenarios so that you can get into it a bit more concrete, not so abstract. And then after that we can discuss some things that maybe you did not see in the scenarios. So the scenarios will be about how to create annotations, how to find annotations, and how to work with annotations with other people, not only yourself. So let's start with the story number 1. So I would need the annotator. That's me. And we also need, in that case, we need the library. Well, we are in one. And we need some artifacts, which is a book. And then we counted with an interaction table or interactive table, which is not programmed accordingly yet, but could be. So we use, for now, we use just this table and the sketch. And what we also would need would be an ID card. So this scenario is kind of for this library actually, and the book is RFID tagged, and the card is RFID tagged, and the table can read this. So what happens now is that Emmeline takes the book, and she's starting to read. And she's reading it, maybe sitting or standing, doesn't matter.
So, I'm a student.
The nice librarian helping her to...
Thank you! So I need to do some research. So I read a book and I see this beautiful magic table and I say, wow! Just amazing! So I see I have some interesting idea in that book and I would appreciate to make some notes, but I can't read on this book, obviously. So I put my chair here, and so I just have to put my book and take my ID card and... Hello. Hello, you! Such a good day. So I have all this interface with appears, and I have my folders with previous annotation, and I have some icons where I can see, I can make picture, I can record a sound, and I can add some text, some annotation, some citation, everything. So just I read and I see, oh, this is an interesting annotation and this is an interesting citation. So I can tap on that and choose citation, and I can just tap the citation and I just identify the page and my annotation. I can change the size of the text, and I can share my citation with other people, and I can just read my book and add some other annotation, and they just save in my folders. So when I finished, I just take my book and disconnect to my account, and I just get home and put the book in the shelves.
The second story is about an annotator who is sitting at a cafe and doesn't have a physical, doesn't have a paper book, but it's just a tablet. So he sits down and he won't see anything.
I want a coffee.
From Antoine, but we made some sketches so that you can see it better. So what happens here is that he is reading that book, and then he wants to annotate. He might have some indications of previous annotations, but if he wants to annotate, then he swipes, and there's this gesture that we would like to propose, and that could be a gesture for revealing the space for annotations, and then in that space you would have, as an example, you would have to the left still the page that you were at. To the right you would have some space to actually write things down, or even if you are obsessed with digital pens, for instance, you could also and it's practical to have on the left still the page, not only because you still read what you actually want to annotate, but you could also mark stuff, and then it would be also marked as you had some marks there. Well, and then you know, if you finish your annotation, then you swipe back, and then you are back in normal reading mode. And the story number 3, we wanted to show to you different methods how to find stuff that you actually annotated. It would not make much sense to... No, it would make a lot of sense to annotate, but not to find the annotations already, because if there are people who annotate in order to memorize it a lot better. For instance, like on my bad days I have to annotate or else I will fall asleep. So there is also already some sense, but it would be even better if you would find what you annotated. So there is a draft of, for instance, the books that you have read recently, and then you can see how far you actually are in your reading, and you could have a different view on them, which is something like that, where you see the lines. Each line represents a book, and the bubbles on the line represent the annotations that you would have made on the book. And these lines could be also put into a time perspective, where you could see when did I actually read what. And then you would be able to, for instance, tap at one of the bubbles, and then you would come into a mode on the left or on the right. We're not sure about that yet. Which is like, so you would see either the annotation in big, or it would be in the context of the text, which is on the right sketch here. And probably you would be able to go more into analyzing what you annotated, which is a part that we were not working on a lot, but you could have some visualizations where you could, for instance, say, okay, I read some books about, let's say, cyberspace. So where is cyberspace defined in the books, and how, and is that a big definition or a small one? Does it refer to something else? So you would have these kind of things. And of course you could also, use the, for us, usual standard way and start typing and have a keyword search, and we'll have lists and so forth. Then you will have some results. You would even see if the books are annotated by others, and where. The fourth story is a bit longer, or a bit more complicated, because we need 3 people here. So we need 3 roles. Emmeline is student number 1. And she's in Lyon. Then Antoine is student number 2 and is in Montreal. And then we have Arek, the professor, and he's in Paris. And they are working in a group, so Emeline and Antoine are working on the same book, or working in a group and are researching on the same book right now. And Arek may or may not give some feedback on what they do or what they don't do. And we have different kind of progress in the book. So Emeline read quite a lot already, and Antoine almost nothing. Kind of more probably the usual state. And the professor, of course, knows the book by heart, or at least pretends to.
Second one. So I can see that Emeline has read the chapter that I want to read, and then I think, oh, perhaps Emeline know a lot of things I don't know yet. So I ask, I can see that Emeline read this chapter, but don't annotate it. So I send a message. Can you annotate it, please? I want to understand the chapter.
So he can see that there are some annotations. It's indicated, and he has chosen his group that he works with. So he can choose. I want to see only Emeline's annotations, or of the whole group, or it depends on the group size. What you probably would choose. And then you would see that there are some indications on where the annotations are. You could also come to the list of all annotations, of course. And then you will be in chapter 3, and Antoine doesn't see any annotations for chapter 3. No notes. That's sad. So
I ask for comments. I ask, what do you think about this chapter? Please.
Please do the work for me.
No. So, after that, Emeline gets a request and send a message with a link with the annotation and some information with the annotation. So I can see that I can copy or just oh, okay, I don't understand on web typography, but now with the annotations from Emeline, I can understand, I suppose.
So Emeline helps him out, and she puts her thoughts into the right context, which is more helpful for Antoine, because if she would just answer the message, then he would have to find the right passage and what she actually refers to and what she means. So she does it in place, and then she tells him, well, it's done, you can read it now. And then after Antoine has kind of swallowed it and has also written his own thoughts, then Arek comes into place, and he says, well, you might have misunderstood that passage actually. So Arek it's possible for him to read the annotations and to comment on them.